I'm Bob Trelford. I've been in this park a number of times over the last 10 years, but before that I was born in Southampton. My father had an interesting little operation in that he put up the signals in the signal house way back in the 20s and early 30s. So I seem to get involved in that way with marine heritage because he was. Now, as far as recent things are concerned, I've been involved with the island restoration. And Chantry Island has been an icon, I guess, since Mike Sterling and many others decided that we should become it should become something that the town will look at forever and ever, and has. And now it's we take tours, and the tours started about 12 years ago, 11 I guess, and they have, when you go to the island, you see the boathouse, you see the keeper's house, and you see the lighthouse. Now, we didn't do a lot of restoration on the lighthouse because the Coast Guard looks after that pretty well. They paint it, they keep the light going, they have still, I think, they still have contracts to look after that part of the light and the lighthouse. But in 1997, the keeper's house had fallen into terrible disrepair. It was not something anybody would want to even look at because everything had fallen into the basement. All the beams and everything else had disintegrated. They tell me that some of the lighthouse people from Coast Guard, there were batteries in those days to keep the light going. So somebody told me that they would throw the batteries down through the roof of the house just to get rid of them. Well, now, I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but I've never seen anybody do it. But there were a lot of batteries in the basement of that house. So I think maybe that could have happened. But, you know, you can't leave them lying around anyway because there were lead-acid batteries, and it's kind of dangerous to leave that stuff around. At any rate, when Mike Sterling and Jane and a lot of other people decided we had to do something about this island and the keeper's house, we got started about 97, 90, about then, maybe 96. That's 1996. So we went out there and cleaned it up. I think we took between 40 and 50 tons of material out of the basement, and then we started to contact people about doing the stonework. So we got Bill Robinson from Tara to do the stonework, and he and 2 or 3 of his helpers were out there all one summer, right into the late fall, rebuilding the stone. Well, one time we came out there. It was after a bit of a storm and a heavy wind. Well, the whole front of the keeper's house, it was kind of rickety. It had fallen in. So right then we said to ourselves, are we going to continue or what? So we did. We continued. We said, we can't let that beat us. Obviously it was not good enough to stay anyway, so Bill Robinson came out and he rebuilt the front, rebuilt all the sides, and as we were moving up, we started rebuilding the floor on the inside. Now, most of the wood used in that restoration of the keeper's house was hemlock, and there were big, big trees on my farm. It used to be the Tranter farm, now they call it the Trelford farm. Since I've been there 27 years, full time. At any rate, there was all these lovely hemlock trees out there, so why not use them? So we started cutting them down. Several of the people around town joined us, and limbed the trees, cut them into the right length, hauled them out with my tractor to the edge of the bush, and then we had Ron Williamson and several other people saw them into the right length, and the right thickness. Some of them were 24 feet long, some of the beams. 3 by 24, so they had to be pretty big trees to make a 3 by 24. 3 by 11 by 24 feet long. So they're good size. Some of them were 3 by 12 by 24. They were on the first floor. The second floor were 11s, I think. At any rate, they fit into little pockets on the stone walls. And as we moved up, the bricklayers moved, or stonemasons moved up, and we kept moving up. And pretty soon, we had to think about putting a roof on it. And I had to think about somebody to make proper frames for the windows. And we tried to make it as authentic as possible. And doing that, we went around to various other keepers' houses. There's one just down the other side of Kincardine, and there's one on the island just off Tobermory, Cove Island Light there. It was still up. It's not in great shape now, but it was still up, and so we looked around inside and made sure that what we did out here, because there was nothing left, was at least authentic, the way it used to be, 120 years ago. So we had a good trip around all those places, and finally we got the roof on in the right way. There were a number of people in town, like Ronnie Seaman, who was concerned about that because he started off making sure that we had a space we could work there. And so he got his transom out and made sure we got at least 3/4 of an acre, that we weren't impinging on somebody else's property out there. The property's changed hands a little bit over the years. I'm not sure who owns it now, but I think maybe the town does. At any rate, we got the roof on, and we decided that we put the same kind of slate shingles on. Well, slate shingles, you may know, come either from down in the States in Pennsylvania, or they come from Wales. Well, we didn't have any source of getting slate, so we got something that looked like slate. And there was a lot of different kinds of colors. We tried to get the same color, which is kind of a slate color, if you know what that is. And so we got all that put on, and by, I think it was 99, before the shingles went on, we closed it in. Closed in the windows for the winter. This was in December. A little cool then, but Bill Robinson just loved working on this type of a building, and he helped us do the final hammering on of the hemlock on the roof. Now, there's no point being on the island unless you have a boat. So, where are we going to get a boat? So that winter, and maybe the winter before, I spent some time getting plans for a 17-foot boat, a work boat, made of wood, and it had been, I forgot the terms at the moment, but I'll think of it. It was clinker. It was a clinker boat where the sides come like this on the sides. Beautiful thing. It turned out really well, so that's out there too. And we said, well, if we have a boat, we're going to have a boathouse. So we got busy and put the boathouse as close to where it used to be as we thought we could get it. It's on the path going up to the boathouse, to the main keeper's house. Now we have a keeper's house. We have it all painted up. We have many, many stories how we got there for 2 years in the rain and the cold and the sleet and the hail sometimes. But at one time we had to, in order to get to the island, because the southeast wind here is kind of rough and it hits the inside of the island on the east side. And because of that, we had to put a rope out with stakes, steel stakes in the ground, and we'd get up to this particular rope, tie off, which we tied, and then we haul ourselves in like this because it was too shallow any other way to get any kind of a boat in there, and it was too rough anyway. And of course there'd be stones as big as this bench in the way sometimes. We never ever got them out of the way, but Yeah, I guess they're still there. Then we built a great big groin. Now I think that was about 90, maybe it was the year 2000. We put a big dock in. We thought maybe we could put something on the top of it, and we did. We got Willie and his big equipment. We went out there, and he went out there with all his equipment and put this big groin in. Well, the groin was fine for one winter, and that winter was such a bad winter, I'll tell you, that the thing was almost decimated. We went out in the spring and said, what happened to our groin? It was all back on the lake again, almost. Some of it is still there. We haven't used much of it. We haven't used much of that groin, and some people would like to build it up again and put a dock and put a proper walkway on top of it, but we never ever decided to do that. We built steel walkways instead down beside it. I don't know how much more I could tell you, except that Bob Chatterton and some of his good buddies rebuilt the Biffy. Now, out in Manitoba they call the outhouse a Biffy. And so I like calling it a Biffy, but I'm not a Manitoban. I like fishing up that way, that's all.